Dubai is one of the top tourist destinations in the world. From luxurious hotels to being the home of the tallest building in the world, there is a lot that draws the public in. But that doesn't mean that there isn't also some quirks to be aware of. Welcome back, guys. I'm your host Kennedy, and today on Most Amazing we are counting down some of the most strange ways you could find yourself in trouble in the shopping capital. So get ready, because this is the top 10 weird laws you didn't know exist in Dubai. Starting us off at number 10, clean cars. For a place with such frequent sandstorms, you would assume they'd understand if you had some dirt on your car. But apparently not. In the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, a dusty car is seen as an act of disfiguring the city image and public health. And therefore, if your car is not kept in pristine, sparkling condition, you risk having it towed and will likely face some pretty hefty impound fees. However, it gets even more complicated, because while it is imperative that your car remain clean and dust-free, there are very strict rules surrounding where and how you are permitted to wash said car. Any public area, including residential areas, are illegal. In fact, the only place you can wash the car is, well, the car wash at gas stations. And if you are caught rinsing off the vehicle in anywhere deemed an inappropriate place, you are also fined. So no matter what, there is a possibility of getting into some trouble. Coming in at number 9, public snacking. While it's not prohibited to eat or drink in public in general, except during Ramadan, there is one place that no matter the time of day or year, eating and drinking is strictly banned: public transit. This ban covers not only the buses and other forms of transportation, but the stations and even pedestrian crossings too. Apparently, they just really do not want people to drink their morning coffee on the go. Reportedly, the ban was put in place with good intentions, as they were trying to cut back on littering in public spaces, which honestly, fair enough, because people are insane with their litter. However, it's apparently been kind of over-enforced by authorities since it was put in place. Now, luckily with this one, if you are caught, the fine isn't too hefty, only setting you back an equivalent of like $35, but still, it is a very strange rule to have in the first place. Coming in at number 8, flush curfew. Out of all the things on this list, I have to say this is the one that makes me giggle. I just have so many questions about how and why this came to be. Apparently, it is against the law in Dubai to flush your toilet after 10 p.m. And yes, this is real. According to the city's website, apparently the reason behind the regulation was to reduce flooding and water waste, and so that they could ensure that all residents enjoy a peaceful night's sleep. Now, to be fair, this one isn't hurting anybody, so why not? But I do also wonder how this is truly being enforced. Like, how would they know if you flushed your toilet at 10:02? What is the fine? What is the risk you take? Plus, as public restrooms in Dubai are fitted with bidets, it's also illegal to flush toilet paper or anything else down them. So just be warned. Coming in at number 7, living arrangements. In Dubai, one of the laws that is definitely far from North American practices is that it is straight up illegal to live with someone you are not married to. Now, does that mean it never happens? Of course not. Remember, people do things that they are not supposed to do all the time. But still, it is far from allowed. Also, I know that this one seems pretty obvious considering what we know about the UAE, but it's actually a bit more complicated than it sounds. The law surrounding living with someone who you aren't married to doesn't just ban living with someone prior to marriage, but it also means that adults can't live with anyone they aren't married to, meaning 2 young adults cannot live together as friends even. Apparently, the only way for a single person to find a place to live before marriage that isn't, of course, their parents' house is if the place they are renting from is owned by their parents or siblings. So no matter what, if you're following the law, your parents will be your landlord until you marry. Coming in at number 6, PDA. While there are some obvious forms of PDA that I can totally understand would be restricted, especially in conservative areas like the UAE, believe it or not, pretty much any public display of affection is seen as indecent and a violation of modesty rules, even for married couples. These so-called indecent acts can include kissing, hugging, and even holding hands with your partner. And if caught, infringers can face fines, jail time, and in some really extreme cases, deportation. It's hard to imagine this from our Western lens. I mean, PDA is literally everywhere, it seems, but apparently in Dubai, couples can be apprehended for simply holding hands while walking down the street. So I suppose the moral of the story here is to maybe consider a different destination if you're on your honeymoon. Next up at number 5, snooping. Privacy rights are huge in the UAE, and on one hand, it makes sense. However, there are some circumstances where I'd say it gets a little intense, and that instance is when it comes to people's phones. So in Dubai and the rest of the UAE, it is against the law to peek into anyone's phone without their explicit consent, which, I mean, again, doesn't sound so terrible at first, but just hear me out. This rule extends to any circumstance, so we're not just talking about hacking into someone's phone or computer. You can actually be arrested for just opening up their phone to read a message or sending yourself a photo from their camera roll. Now, of course, the way to get around this is to ask for their permission, which I know seems obvious and would work in most cases to avoid the trouble. But this law is still upheld even if you suspect illegal activity, adultery, or any other number of bad things. So if you're in Dubai, just keep your eyes on your own phone, otherwise you risk paying up to $4,000 to fix the problem. Next up at number 4, poppy seeds. If you happen to enjoy a lemon poppy seed muffin or an everything bagel, I have some bad news for you if you ever travel to Dubai. One of these stranger things that I found out that are illegal in the UAE are poppy seeds. Now, to be fair, the reason behind all of this kind of makes sense if you don't think about it too hard. As most people are aware, poppy seeds are the source of opium, which is understandably a banned substance in the UAE. However, this ban extends to literally just possessing the seed in any form. Anyone found with poppy seeds will face intense punishment, such as jail time, and if you're traveling with them, you risk having your possessions seized by custom officials. I mean, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it seems like a bit of a leap to ban them entirely. But hey, at least now you know not to try and cross the border with an everything bagel in your hand. Coming in at number 3, fundraising. Countries in North America host fundraisers all the time. Schools get their students to sell chocolate bars, cookie dough, or other treats to send themselves on trips. Nonprofit companies host car washes or round up empty bottles for the depot, and there is literally a giant website dedicated to fundraising for quite literally anything you might want money for. I mean, honestly, in North America, if we can't afford something and we can find a way to not pay for it ourselves, we will. In Dubai, however, private fundraising is strictly forbidden. Anyone caught doing so is not only subject to jail time, but can actually be fined up to the equivalent of $200,000 for it too, and in some cases risk being deported. Now, the good news about this is you'll never feel guilty if you don't buy a chocolate bar from some grade 8 to send them on their band trip. But jokes aside, a world with no fundraiser is so different from the custom here. Now, to be fair, this ban does have an exception, and that is charity. However, any charity must first receive a stamp of approval from the Islamic Affairs and Charity Activities Department, and all funds must be used for humanitarian endeavors. Without their stamp of approval, even if your charity is raising money for good, it is breaking the law. Coming in at number 2, gossip. In Western countries, the concept of the rumor mill is something we literally encounter every single day. I mean, whether we're talking about tabloids, someone going online and saying something about a time they encountered a celebrity, or people just trying to stir up the pot. There are literally empires that are built on rumors and gossip. However, if you ever find yourself in Dubai, beware that they have a much different culture surrounding rumors. The belief is essentially that gossip can damage social peace and public order, and essentially it's seen as a threat to national peace. So they quite intensely crack down at even a whisper of a rumor beginning, meaning anything constructed as a rumor is punishable by law, and any form of gossip, especially on social media, can result in up to 3 years behind bars and a fine of 1 million dirhams, or roughly $360,000. And last up in our number 1 spot, swearing. Whether it's online or in a restaurant, swearing is 100% off limits in any public setting within the UAE, including the city of Dubai. Seen as a disgrace to the lifestyle of honor and modesty, anyone caught swearing can be fined up to 10,000 dirhams, which equals a little less than 4,000 Canadian, and is definitely a culture shock for a lot of people. Now, the interesting thing is that some words are viewed as worse than others. The F word, for example, is seen as the ultimate no-no, and saying that could land you in prison for up to a year. And believe it or not, it doesn't stop there. As we know, there is more than one way to communicate, of course, and gestures that exhibit the same essence as a swear word, like flipping the bird for example, are seen as indecent acts that breach pride and modesty and could result in deportation. I mean, I have to wonder how people handle road rage here. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, swearing online is also not allowed. Using swear words in WhatsApp messages or on any kind of social media platform breaches cyber laws. Plus, if you get caught sending emojis or anything deemed an indecent gesture, you could face a fine of up to 250 dirhams, or roughly $90,000, and risk being sent to prison or deported from the country. So if you do visit, for the love of God, don't start quoting a Tarantino movie. Well, that's all I've got for you today, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you next time.